Good afternoon. Welcome to User Empathy, Usability Testing. I hope your week is a good week. And I hope that your schedule and your workload is still manageable. I've heard from some students that there's a lot of work in the semester. So from another program, I don't know if it's the same. I know I'm keeping you busy, but I'm positive you sign up for a certificate so that you can actually learn, and and hopefully you find that you are learning from all the class that you've been attending from through the program. So we are going to be talking today. We will continue to talk about usability heuristic and the 10 heuristic that we've discussed last week. We actually will review the labs, and we are going to look at Metro, the website, together. I will be giving you some feedback insights from a expert point of view. And then I have also shared my observation from the Metro. So my observations and whatever I have provided is really just a sample of what you could have come up with into your labs. So thank you for doing the lab submission. And then it will give you insights. And I will use the think aloud method as well, which you've seen in videos, which is very powerful for usability testing. And then I'm hoping to be able to give you a bit of time to work on the assignment as well for this week. And the good news is there are no labs for this week, so that you have time to focus on the assignments. It is a continuation of the heuristic evaluation. In fact, last week's lab perhaps should have been due for this week, but I'm confident that you've all done some very good observations, and then we will just carry on with heuristic and the principles. Again, as I said last week, it's through usage that you will become better, more comfortable with the 10 heuristic. So speaking of heuristic, let's do a little quiz. So you can answer voice if you want, or you can type in your answer. And then this is a true or false. So expert reviews are done before a usability testing. In general, we actually do a heuristic evaluation before we do a research or a heuristic, a usability testing. True or false? So another way of asking the question. We do heuristic evaluation so that we actually have a good sense of what are some of the potential issues with a site from the expert point of view based on user goals and business, so that we are better informed in terms of what do we need to pay attention to when we go into the usability testing. Is that true or is this false? Yes, absolutely. I was worried there that I was by myself. So yes, it is true. And we normally do heuristic evaluation. And this is why I give you the first assignment to be a heuristic evaluation of the business and the site that you've selected, so that you get familiar with the site, the product, and you already have a sense of where do you think there are issues, so that you are clear on what are we going to be focusing on in our usability testing. So next week we will be going into planning for our usability testing and the test scenario. So the test scenario, the user scenario, you're going to hear sometime test scenario, user scenario. So when you do the usability testing, you're using a guide, and that we just don't show up to a session as facilitator and moderator of a session. You need to have a plan. And I will say the biggest component of a usability testing is your actual scenario. It's the test scenario, the user scenario that you will give to the participants to complete on their own online. So very, very powerful. Another question then. When we find a potential usability issue online through going through the lab that you've done for Metro, a usability issue can only fall into one of the 10 heuristic evaluation. True or false? Yes, and I'm sure you've had a challenge of actually being able to decide on which principle is actually violated. Is that a fair statement? Do you have challenges of knowing which principle is really, really violated for that specific issues? Yes. And what did I say about mapping an issue to a specific principle? How critical is it to know, to be able to have the perfect mapping? Is it really critical or not that critical in terms of making sure that we have the right mapping in terms of principle, usability principle, or heuristic principle, and the issue that you find? Would you say highly critical, moderately critical, or not critical to have the perfect mapping? Yes, absolutely, Marisa. It's not that critical. More importantly, is to know that there's an issue and know why do we believe that it's an issue. So I will say it's low to moderately, but most often your customer, they're not going to know anything about heuristic evaluation. The heuristic principles are there for you to guide you. As you go through the experience, the user, a specific user goal, when you go through that specific user goal or a micro journey, if you want to call them, it's for you as a reference, as a checklist to say, so now that I've gone through the experience, I have noticed issues, but is there anything else missing? Then you can go through your 10 heuristic and start with visibility of the status, right? And then go through the list. You can obviously include your heuristic evaluation principles that you've used into your report as an appendix so that you do some education with your customer, with your client, so that they know that there's a methodology and there's some very specific principles that you use. Okay, here's another question. Heuristic evaluation or usability evaluation, like you've done for Metro, are usually done with real users. True or false? So heuristic evaluation or expert reviews are done with participants. Absolutely false. Correct. Because you've done it, right? So you do it as an expert. You go through a series of questions yourself to get a sense of how good or how bad is the site, the experience, to inform you and build a plan for the usability testing. And the usability testing will involve users and participants of the product or the website. Absolutely. Okay, so I'd like to ask you, what are some of the 10? What are the 10 heuristic evaluations? So let's begin with the first one. Which one do we remember is number one? But again, the number doesn't matter either. But if you want to type in what the heuristics, yes, visibility of system status, visibility of system status. What is the second one that you remember? I start with M, matching, right? Okay, match between system and the real world. So yes, that one. Really what we mean is, do we speak the user language? Do we speak a language? Do we use concepts that they're familiar? Okay, a third one, error prevention. Again, I don't know the number. I don't know them by heart in terms of numbers. Yes, error prevention. So let's focus on your error prevention now. So the question is, do we prevent error in the first place, right? Do we make sure that we are giving enough guidance to the customer or the user so that they're not going to turn making errors because of bad design, right? So I'm sure you've seen some of those. Absolutely. A very good example of error prevention is creating passwords or creating an account, right? Tell the user what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, right? That's really what you want to do. And I know sometimes error prevention can be a tricky one. User control and freedom. Absolutely. So user control and freedom. So are there alternative ways of doing whatever I want to do as a user? Are there other paths? Are you forcing me to do something that is not at all a step that I would do if I'm just browsing for product? If you're forcing me to log in, if you're forcing me to create an account, if you're forcing me to give you an email, I'm losing control. And people are really, really concerned with using control and their freedom. Good. And I think we were looking at air miles last week. And then we had a case where we were just looking for, where can I go with air miles, with the points that I have. And then we already had to create an account. I'm browsing, and it's really risky to force anybody to actually create an account. Absolutely. Flexibility and efficiency of use. Yes. So you may think that flexibility and efficiency of use and user control and freedom are kind of similar. I will say they are similar. So sometimes you may not know exactly which one to choose. Absolutely. But flexibility, efficiency of use are very, very critical. Recognitions and recall. I will say this is probably the one that most people have challenge with. Anybody can explain what recognition rather than recall is? It's a tough one, but I think it's worth to spend a bit of time on recognition. Absolutely, Michael. The less we have to remember, the better. Showing, reminding me, right? Remind me which step am I in the process. So this is why we often see when we go checkout, we have a progress bar at the top that will tell you the number of steps. So that is good. That's, I would say, is efficiency because it's kind of telling you how long is this going to take you. It's comforting. And yes, we're showing you same thing as you add items to your cart. As you do your checkout, we're going to remind you of what you've selected. You're even going to be able to maybe view your product details there. You may be able to click and get more information about the hotel that you're about to book. And there's a link so that you don't have to start all over or go back. And that is flexibility and efficiency of use, right? Does this also qualify? How many items are there in a certain category? Yes, a very, very good comment, Tanisha. Absolutely. To tell you how many search results, how many products were found, how many products meet uh, the filter that you selected. Absolutely. This is a very good example of recognitions rather than recall as well. Last week we talked about navigation and showing more items. So giving more items, showing more of your product. So think of a window, a store window that has the entire window is used with products. Yes, there's a line between overwhelming and showing too many, but when you're looking for that specific item and it's listed, there's a higher chance that you will see that item on the navigation or you will find that item on the website. If you remember, we've seen a lot of examples where items are hiding behind help, FAQs, and return policies, for example. Like, unfortunately, we still have a lot of e-commerce. It's really difficult to find the where do I go if I want to return an item. Absolutely. Do we have any other one? There's one missing, at least from what I remember. One that creative love. Yes. Okay. The two ones. Those are the one. Help and documentation. Absolutely, Tanisha. Help and documentation. Does anybody remember my old challenge or issue with help and documentation and how it could actually be misunderstood as well? Anybody remembers what to be careful with when you think of help and documentation? Yeah. So having an FAQ is not necessarily sufficient. And it doesn't mean that because there's an FAQ on the site that you're providing help and documentation. Yes, good. It's half of the answer, Tanisha. There was something else that I've mentioned when it comes to help and documentation. So I'll help you. Having a link that says help on your navigation does not mean that you're supporting help and documentation. Okay, it's really providing guidance there in the task when the user is actually trying to achieve their goal. And you remember, they are focusing in the middle of the page. They're focusing where the what you want them to do is, right? So they're not paying attention to anything around at that particular time. So it's providing guidance in the task and not think that they will look for or search for help in FAQ outside of that little space where they are on the screen. So are you providing enough guidance? Guidance could be a little eye that gives them more information, a little link that gives them more information. And maybe on screen, you will tell them exactly what maybe the restrictions are for password. right? So you're just providing more guidance there in the task, close to where they're focusing, where they're paying attention to. Very, very important. Yes, the little sign I, Tanisha, absolutely. And then aesthetic and minimalist design. Do we remember what aesthetic and minimalist design is? Michael, you have very, very good way to formulate, to take a long sentence and very short. Yes, absolutely. Everything on screen should matter. That's a challenge, right? Easier said than done. But yes, everything that is on screen there should really matter, should be the priority. Absolutely. No noise on the screen, no irrelevant information to misguide user, no overloading and cluttering on interface, useful and necessary information relevant. Yes, we're not oversaturating, no distraction. When you read all the qualifiers that you've used, they're all very valid. Absolutely. This is minimalist design. But I will say it's probably one of the most difficult one to achieve, right? When you think of it, what is not overloading, what is absolutely necessary, what is relevant now, and then what is really absolutely needed at this point. That requires to really know the user experience, user goals, user the task at hand, understand the steps. Is this even the step that they're expecting to be asked? And also, what do user know? If you're presenting something that they may not be able to, and if you remember when we were looking at air miles last week, they were asking me dream miles or points, cash points, dream miles or cash, tickets. It was too early. Plus, I did not understand what they were asking me, right? So the information was I did not know what to answer, and I don't believe that it was absolutely needed at that point. They could instead have shown me a search result for my destination that I said. I said I want to go from Toronto to Cancun on dates, and then I want to see availability. Then I will say, show me availability. There, you can tell me. If I were to use dreams points, uh, this is how much it would cost me. If I were to not use any dream points, which becomes a paid ticket, this is how much it would cost me. They were asking me something that was not in sequence, and I did not know what to answer at that particular point because first, and on top of that, they were not even telling me how many points I had. I was not logged in, but it was pretty bad. Small things can actually really confuse you and make you abandon. Okay, so what is the main difference between error prevention and recognize, diagnostic, and recover from error? Yes, they do seem to overlap, Tanisha, absolutely. Error prevention and being able to recognize, diagnose, and recover. Recover means get out of the error stage. Both, I would say both of them really much overlap. Let's see how Jacob Nielsen actually refers to them. I'm just going to read error prevention. So this is the way that he actually described error prevention. Let me just share with you. They have on Jacob Nielsen, they have a very cute little cheat sheet that you can download on their site. Let me just find it. They have posters. You can actually print them and have them on your wall. Like they have posters and the little cheat sheet. Error preventions. Good error messages are important, but the best design prevent problems. So they're saying, how do you prevent errors from happening in this first place, right? And it's not just a system error, right? It's facing an issue that you may not be able to get out. Then recognize, diagnose, and recover from error. Specifically, error messages should be expressed in plain language, so matching the user language, so that you tell me what is the problem from my point of view. And how often have you seen error messages that you don't even know what they mean? It will say error 101, bad connection, or whatever, unable to authenticate, and you read it, and it's very technical. It made sense to whoever developed the error message because they were probably developers, but it's not consumer friendly. And then precisely indicate the problem and constructively suggest a solution. So they're both the same, but the first one is preventing error from happening in the first place. So having a good design that will not lead people into going to the wrong path. That's one. The second one is if there is a error or if there's a problem and the system actually comes back and tell the user there's something has happened that will prevent you from moving forward. First of all, are we telling them in a language they understand? First, are we telling them? Can they see that there's an error? Recognition instead of recall. Can they see that there's an error? Do they understand the message, the error, and then do we tell them how to actually fix the error? Because obviously, if they come into an error situation that they are blocked and they're stuck, it was not intentional, right? So are we helping them to understand, identify the error, and get out of the error stage? What happens often when people are in errors and they don't even know what to do? They click on the home button. They click home and they go back to the starting point. That I will say is what I think research has shown us is often when people are stuck in the error stage, they will do two things actually. They're actually going to go back home and start all over again, or they're actually going to leave the site and pick up the phone and call. That costs money, right? So that is, they're similar, but then one of them is focusing on preventing error through good design, anticipating. That's the other thing. When you design, you have to anticipate errors, and you have to anticipate, and you also have to design for interruption. And I think efficiency of use, flexibility, efficiency of use is also to support design for interruption. We are interrupted. People are not doing the tasks that you're trying to do online from A to B, and then they just sat there. Quite often they will leave. They will come back. So what is that state of leaving and coming back? Are we allowing them to save? Are we allowing to pick it up where they left it out too on the web? Very, very important. So these are the heuristic and very well done. I can tell that the class has really well assimilated the heuristic. That was the intent. And those heuristic, they will stick around for a long time. I've known the heuristic for 25 years. They will be there, I will tell you, in 20 years again. They don't change much because they're based on psychology. As I said, so knowing them will give you a different lens when you're actually doing an assessment of a website. And I do expect you to refer to the heuristic in your reports or in any of your assessments as well, for you, and also for me to show that you truly understood, and the more you practice, the better you will get. Are there any questions more about the heuristics before we actually move into Metro? We are going to look at Metro together. I will, as I said, I have already shared my feedback about last week's lab. So I'm just going to show you where it is. So if you go to the heuristic from last week on week 2, I have a link, and it's a Google Drive document. And it has my observation about metro.ca. That was, again, I did pretty much what I asked you to do in class, is to actually go through the experience and make notes. You will see that I may have not done exactly what you have done. No worries. So if you've done the lab and you've shown that you've done the lab and you've got through the exercise, you are going to get your mark. The most important thing is to really understand what was the intent, and ask yourself questions and go through. And I'm hoping that you are feeling a little bit more comfortable. So, well, let me ask you the question. Are you feeling more comfortable with the heuristic evaluation or the principles now that you've gone through the lab for Metro? And good, glad to hear. What was the main challenge as you were going through the lab? What was the things that stands out in your mind from the lab? I know you've been doing a lot of assignments since, but what was the thing that you find the most challenging? Okay, so yes, mapping the heuristic. Yes, that is. Oh, okay, some people had errors, so perhaps system error or site errors, Metro site. Yes. Uh, wow. Okay. So it sounds like it's a very unstable site then. Hmm. Okay. So yes, that will happen. the mapping, not able to add products to the cart. Those are pretty severe challenges. And CAPTCHA, yeah, okay. Oh, wow. Those are, I think, some, it sounds like some of them were bugs, like bugs and things that should probably be, fixed, or at least Metro should have a report that tells them about bugs. That's the other thing. With usability testing, the intent is not to look at bugs, but you're going to come across some bugs. You're probably going to meet some bugs in testing, and that might very well happen. But the goal is not to look at bug, and the bug testing is quality assurance testing. I've never mentioned that, but which is very different. And in fact, you're gonna hear sometime when you go into your new career and as a UX as usability tester or user experience designer, you will see when you mention it needs all of our help, Michael. When you mention usability testing, people will say, yes, we do testing. And then you'll say, okay, great. What kind of testing do you do? And they say, well, we do testing just before we launch the site. We do bug testing. This is not bug testing. But people, when they hear usability testing, they think of quality assurance testing, QA testing, quality assurance testing. So they will say, yes, we do testing. We actually have everybody in a company actually go through the site before we launch, and we look at bugs. This is not bug testing. But when they hear testing, they will think that they're doing. So this is why, and I'm opening a parenthesis. When people tell you that they do things, they will use words. Maybe the way to actually really make sure that what they're describing is actually what you're thinking of testing is to ask them to describe the methodology or what they do, and that takes about a sentence, right? And quickly you will know that they're talking about quality assurance testing, QA testing. They're not talking about usability testing. If they are, then you will know because you're probably going to be hired by the same group and you're going to be part of their teams. And but in an interview, perhaps you want to know how do they involve users? And I'm sure Yvonne has said that. A lot of businesses will tell you we involve users, but not all research are good for when it comes to digital products, interactive products. And this is why we do usability testing. So you will hear that. Now I'm closing the parenthesis. So what we're going to do now is, as I said, I have shared with you my observations about the lab. So please take a look at them. I've put a little bit.ly so I know who's actually looking at my samples. And I know this class is very keen, so I'm very confident you'll be paying attention to the material that I share with you. And so we are in week 3, and we're still going to talk about heuristic. You're going to have time to work on your assignment, hopefully. I have a few readings, and let me just bring attention to the first one is why don't we ask user instead of conducting a usability testing. Next week, we're going to dive in usability testing. But before we talk about usability testing, we need to know what it is that we're testing and why we're testing. So, and knowing the heuristic will help you. But why don't we ask user instead of conducting usability testing? I have these articles. Anybody knows or anybody has a bit of a sense of why do we do usability testing as opposed to asking users? Why don't we ask users? Is our site good? Is your site easy? Is our site easy to use or navigate? Why don't we just ask them? Why do we do usability testing? Why do we go through the pain of putting a plan? Anybody has a bit of a guess? You can come voice it if it's easier for you or quicker. Here's a quick answer. Users are not good to remember. First of all, they don't remember if something is, if it was a good experience or bad experience. The second thing is the users are not designers. The users are not equipped to know necessarily if it was a good or bad experience. And the user often will think that they actually did very well. But what you will find in the usability testing is they actually did not doing well at all. And asking users is, yes, you can survey, you can ask them, but the chances are you're going to find that what happens in real life is actually completely disconnected from what they perceive as being a good or a bad experience. When you do usability testing, you will learn, you can actually do a quiz at the end of the test to ask them, how good was the website? And then there's specific scales and questions you can use. One of them can be, how easy to use was it? Out of 1 of 5. And then often they will tell you it was super easy to use. But meanwhile, when you were observing them doing the user scenario, the task that you give them, they actually fail. And that we've seen many times. So users are not good to remember. And usability testing is about observing people. So go through that little article, and then usability testing. Oh, that's the other one. Usability testing and focus groups. When you're going to ask in your business, do you do usability testing? They say, yes, we do. Yes. And then you'll say, how can you tell me? So they may tell you that they do quality assurance testing. The other thing that you may hear is they will tell you, we do focus groups. So I have shared with you an article that talks about focus groups. And Yvonne, I'm sure, I think you've talked, or you will talk about focus group in her portion of the class. Usability testing and focus groups are not at all the same. Focus groups, you bring people in a room and they're sitting in the comfort of their chair, they're eating the snacks that you're feeding them with, and they will tell you what they think. They will tell you what they think they did. They will tell you if they like something or not. And nothing tells you that it's actually really what happens. And nothing tells you that they would actually use the site or that it was a good experience. Focus groups are good to evaluate people's opinions, attitude, maybe motivation to doing things, but it will not tell you if the site is actually helping them to accomplish their goal. So usability testing, in other words, it's about watching people doing, and that's the power. It's watching them. Can they actually use the site? Can they actually even find where they need to go to return an item at Metro? Can they actually find the products that that they're trying to buy at Metro efficiently and easy based on the heuristic? You do not know until you actually do. So, and that's why we do test drive when we buy a car, right? The car looks great. I want to buy this car, but when I go into the car and I start driving it, I hate it because there's little things that just doesn't work for me. So that is the difference. And I will say focus group is you're looking at a product and you think you would actually like it, but you will not know until you actually do your test drive. Usability testing is actually the test drive. That's the other way to think about it. In terms of readings for this week, it's the same set of reading from last week. So there's no new reading. So I give you a bit of a break for this week's. And then the class recording will be available in the same spot that you've seen them or on Blackboard too. So let's move on to Metro. And I'm just going to share with you Think Cloud, which is a little bit what you would see in the usability testing. I will pretend that I'm actually a participant looking for a specific goal. So is there a specific area? But before we go, are there any questions about anything that we've that I have mentioned at this point about heuristic or about anything? Is there a specific goal or user goal that you would like me to go through as we go through quickly Metro, and then I will share with you my the challenges. I may pause as well as I go through the experience, and then I will surface some of the heuristic evaluation or principles that or perhaps might be or might not be violated as we go. Scheduling order. So scheduling a grocery then. We want to scheduling orders. So at this point, then I want to place an order, or do I want to see what's available? What kind of slots are available? Ashata, right? Akshata. Right.
You can call me AQ simply. It's okay.
Sorry. What? How can I call you otherwise? You said Ashata.
AQ.
AQ.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you share with me, but thank you. If you did, my apology. Okay, I'm just gonna make a note so that I don't forget. Awesome, great. So AQ, when you say scheduling an order, you want me to place a grocery and then look, and also know you want me to place a grocery, or you want me to look the next available time slot?
The time slot. The time slot.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, I would say that that's probably a very important element for users when they may actually make a choice about a specific grocery provider. So I shop in multiple places, but perhaps this is just my experience, right? But maybe several of you will relate to this, as AQ said. Maybe I want to know who has availability because I need to have grocery items, and I'm not really particularly attached to Loblaws or Metro or any other brand, but I just know of Metro. So let's go through the experience of finding out if when is the next available time for delivery. So let's pretend, and I think we're going to go even more specific. So the next available time, and perhaps I'm very specific, and I want tomorrow. My order has to come in tomorrow in the morning. So let's see what that experience is. And those are variations, right, of what some specific users may actually be interested in. Okay, so I'm going to the Metro site now. And you can see, and I'm just gonna, okay, great. So I'm gonna think loud. First of all, am I able to even find? So I'm actually looking. I'm familiar with the next available time, the next available window, the next available time. So I'm only really just going to be looking at that specific item. So I'm going to be doing think loud. And I don't know if some of you have done that as you were going through your lab. Okay, so I should not need to be signed in. So I'm not going to go to sign in my list, my store. This is my store. And I want to do order online. And actually, I want to pick up. So I want delivery, right? So I do want to have delivery. So I'm looking for specific items, delivery, and I want to know when the next delivery will be available. I would actually love to be able to find something that says next delivery available at this point. And if I remember correctly, this is not an option that is necessarily available. But I would love to be able to see next delivery. So that for online, but I'm going to go to online groceries. To be honest with you, I'm actually thinking I'm already online. So why am I not on the online mode? Now they're forcing me to, at this point, they're already forcing me to create an account or sign up. I don't want to do that. Okay, select your service. I want delivery. So I'm thinking loud. This is what I will do. I'm going to put my postal code and for Y3C5, and I'm going to check. So if you were in usability testing at this point, you would be taking a lot of notes of, and I would say your notes will be focusing on where do you see that I'm having actually challenges in my experience? That would be in. Yes, sign up, sign it. Okay, so yes, forcing me to sign up. They were not forcing me, but it was almost looked like I was being forced. I could have actually left. I didn't, but I didn't. So I continued, not an issue for me, but for some people it might be an issue. But it was not an issue for me. I knew that I could actually close. Online grocery services, enter your postal code to see the services available in the stores near you, what's available. Your online groceries. Okay, I'm not really sure why do I need put my postal code. I think it's because maybe they're going to give me the next delivery in my postal code area. Your online grocery priority. I don't know how these works, but I'm going to select your online groceries. Now, they're giving me how it works. What is a good example of heuristic? Here, they're showing me that there's information for how it works, but I don't know your online groceries are priority. I just want to do your online groceries. So it feels like I could just bypass that. But they're giving me some links, some help, some support. This is support and guidance, right? They're doing support and guidance. So that's good. Check. I still don't know why I put my postal code, choose a service. Okay, I'm going to do your online groceries, delivery. Yes, I want delivery. So far, so good. Next, I want to see times. Next time, find your next time available on today. No, I want tomorrow. So I'm going to tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow I can't in the morning. So there's no availability in the morning. Then I would say, well, I'm not, like Metro is not going to be an option. Perhaps 12 o'clock is an option or not. Then, okay, great. So I will say I'm done. My goal is done. There's no time available. Okay, so if you think we had to use a goal, time available, and I said tomorrow and I want in the morning, was I successful or was I not really successful in your opinions going through that experience? Did I answer my question of is there availability tomorrow in the morning? Yes, I was successful in finding it, I think, but they just didn't have it available, which is another problem. Yes, but that's a different problem. Did I answer my question of is there a time available for tomorrow? I was specific, right? So the answer is yes, I did. Yes, I had a bit of digging in. but I still managed to do it. But it was maybe not all flawless. They did not have my time in the morning, but that's okay, right? So, but I was at least able to get the answer. Is metro an option? And the answer was no, it's not, because I need to have delivery in the morning, right? So, but as I was going through the experience, I had some small challenges, right? I actually wanted to really be able to see from the get-go, next available slot, like next available delivery. But that now I'm moving into solutioning. So I was actually able to get to my goal. I had a few points where I wasn't sure why they were asking me for the postal code, but that's okay. So maybe a static minimalist was a bit violated of not knowing the purpose of postal code. But it looks like the postal code was allowing them to know if I can do online delivery or if I could do the fast delivery. But I have selected online delivery. So it sounds like there's an extra step, but I still manage, right? I still manage to get through my answer. And they were actually doing good for providing help and documentation for how it works for the two of them. So maybe it was not the most efficient way. I think they could have made decisions or assumptions. I am online. I want to do delivery. I want to do online delivery. Take me through the online delivery flow, bypass. So let's go back. How I would no time slot delivery. At least, okay, so if we want to focus on the positive side, they have some efficiencies of saving my postal code. And now I can also look at time slot not selected, and I can actually edit my time slot from here, and I can go back. So it's efficient. I can go back quickly to my time slot, but I don't think that there was anything for time slot and delivery there at the beginning. So when I started my experience, I'm afraid that there was nothing. And let's go back incognito. So they could have probably done more recognition than recall by showing me these two options. Okay, so let me share with you again what I mean by this. I don't know if you know, you can go incognito mode. And when you go incognito mode, they don't, the site, Google or your browser will not remember what you did and who you were. So it's as if I'm visiting the Metro site for the first time again. So I can re-see the experience from someone who's never been. You go to your, let me show you where you would go. You go to the top of your browser, to the top right corner, and you see some little dots. You click, and often it will say new window incognito, in case you don't know. So I'm going to Metro again as a incognito users, but they saved something, but I want to go incognito, so I was in incognito. I think that's what happened. Metro. Okay, let me just see what you see. And I'm going to share again Metro. My apology, Metro. It's opening a new window. And let's see how I can share. I think it's going to be application then. Yes, hopefully this is what you see now. Okay, do you see we're at step 1? So it's in French, but it would have been a lot more effective. I was looking for my time delivery, and but that option was not at all presented at the top. It says my store or my list. But if we look, and this is as someone who's never been, but I was really looking for a place where I can actually see what's available. And that they do when I come back to the site. So let's see, when I come back to the site, it's efficient. They're showing me. But why not show me that? Why not show me this again? and then I can see time slot not selected, or maybe something that says view time slot. And there I would have find it quickly. I managed to find it, but that would be a better solution. Plus, it would be on screen recognition versus recall. But they do a good job to keep it when I come back to the site so that I can actually go back. So that there would be a bit of work to do. Okay. Any questions or any comments about that specific user goals as we gone through? And because I'm online, I was online. I wish they would have just entirely bypassed this step of your online groceries, your priority groceries. Instead, what I would do is I would assume online groceries, then I would give an option for the priority groceries. But it's better sometimes to assume one flow. And how do you know? You will know if most people are actually doing your online groceries or priority. It's probably a smaller percentage of people that are going through priority. So I would assume a flow for online grocery so you could bypass having to pick between grocery or priority, but then you can still promote priority, but promote it after they've on the screen as a secondary element versus having to make a choice. So you could assume online groceries, and then they would go through online groceries, and then you could have there something that says we have priority grocery. Would you be interested? That would be a better use of more efficient and also a better use of aesthetic and minimalist. You would just minimize to one flow and experience, but you still give someone the option to pick priority if they want. They will still sit, but they don't have to make a choice between priority or order. And that would be through knowing the sequence that the user would expect to be able to do their online groceries. So one thing that we did not do when to do this heuristic evaluation that I did. We could have done a list of what do we think the steps will be as a user. And really, when you think about it, if I want to see what the time is next available, I will look for pick a time, and then I would, when I click on pick a time, then when I can see a calendar, and then I can pick my day, and then I can see what's available on the calendar. That's it. There's nothing else that I should do. So finding where I can see availability, and then view availability on the calendar, or view availability. You don't even have to say calendar. View availability for for a specific day, and then be able to see if it's available on my time, and then be able to select it from there. That would be the steps. But when you think of what happened here, I had to put a postal code. It was hard to find. Then I had to put a postal code. Then I had to make a decision between online groceries or priority groceries. I've already declared that I actually want to do delivery, and then I was given options, but there was an extra step that was not needed at that point. What would be the next goal that you would like me to go over that you have perhaps encountered that you would like to review together? Or perhaps you want to work on your assignment that is due for next week. We can go over the assignment and you can work on the assignment. I can give you time to work on the assignment. That is also an option. Okay, comparing prices. So we're comparing prices between on the grocery on Metro, or comparing prices between Metro and maybe the competitor for a specific item. So let's look at quickly. I compare prices, and then we are going to look at the assignment. I see majority for the assignment. Let's see how people actually do compare prices. So, well, let me ask, how do people do price comparisons? How do we believe, or how do you do price comparison when it comes to grocery store items? Okay, flyers. Okay, great. So we look at flyers, right? Okay, Flip is probably bringing all flyers together. I'm not familiar with Flip. Actually, is Flip bringing all flyers in one place? Mm, even better. One of the term that you're gonna hear is probably aggregator. Like it's a grocery flyer aggregator. It aggregates all flyers together. When you think of it, Expedia is the same. Expedia is aggregator of all the airlines. Uh, Expedia, TripAdvisor, or aggregators. Google is aggregator of flights or hotels, right? They are aggregating. So they are like an umbrella to all these sites. As a user, it's a lot more effective because they can actually see the items. Okay, between products from different brands and Metro, yes, we could look at different brands and Metro. Yes, I haven't looked at that experience, but absolutely. You see how we're becoming a lot more specific on how we allow. And I will say, if some of you have picked Loblaws, I think Loblaws is one of the project with Yvonne. This is all very relevant, right? So I give you this side because I think it's going to help you. But comparing products between brands, between Metro and perhaps Loblaws, comparing products within Metro for different brands is another scenario. Mm, flyers and deals. Okay, let's look at flyers. So, okay, so I went metro.ca, right? And I'm actually interested in the flyers. So where do I go for flyers? Flyers and saving. Very quick, very easy to actually. I found it very easily. Flyer and saving. Flyers. Check out for this week's flyer. Okay, so it seems like there's a nest chocolate here. Not the end of the world. Not a showstopper. And by the way, do we believe that my experience before of finding the time slot, the next time delivery for Friday, was there anything that was a showstopper? The answer is no. I've managed to get my goal. There were some small irritants. Flyer saving. I'm finding flyer saving pretty quickly, but is it a showstopper that I have to click again? No, I don't. And I do expect to be able to see the flyer and maybe even add items. So I'm sharing with you what you're going to hear in usability testing. They may share with you what they would expect. You just make note of what they expect, and that's it. You just make note of it. And then you carry on and you continue to observe what they're doing. So I'm looking for flyers, and then this is weekly savings, dishing up. Okay, I'm going to go my weekly saving. I feel here that they could have assumed that, of course, I want flyers, and of course, I want the flyer that we all know, and the dishing could be a second option, but assume one path when you can. Use your data, use your analytics. What do people go more of the time? We probably have more of this as a flyer, maybe not, and I could be wrong, but the data will tell you. That was my user goal adding products. Yes. So now what we're doing when Shubham says my user goal was to also be able to, uh, it's anticipating what the user will expect. And this is only because they've seen it to other sites, right? I have seen flyers where I can actually see the item and add to them. This is a difference with digital, is interactive and also useful. This is a good example where it's useful. So I hope that I'm actually able to select an item for my flyer. Now, here's how it is efficient. It looks like my flyer, and I'm thinking loud, I'm assuming that the flyer is relevant to me based on my postal code. So Metro knows where I am, right? And see my favorite store flyer, it's saving. So I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming you would just make note of assumptions in usability testing. And then I can see my flyer as if I was now, if I want to make it a little bit bigger, then I would probably, okay, I can make it bigger. So you see, I'm doing, right? You're not saying what would you do? I'm actually doing. But I'm sharing with you what I was looking for. I wanted to make it bigger, and then I made it bigger. Then no issue because I found it. So, okay, great. They have chicken, whatever. And here what they've done is really, this is the paper copy that I would see on my flyer. Let's say that I like avocados, uh, and then I like $3, 3 for $5, add to my cart or to my list. So add to list, I know we'll add to my cart. There's a little cart, and then add to my list. So I can do add to my list could be a way that I would use to compare prices, right? So, but me, I'm gonna add to my cart. I know, or I expect that I will be able to go to my cart and I will be able to see that item. Then I'm gonna carry on to, okay, great. I want to have Brussels sprouts. Uh, yes, 777 per 100 gram. Now, what's interesting is how do I decide on how many grams I want? So I'm thinking loud here. Uh, I'm expecting when I do add to cart, it will tell me, it will ask me to specify how many grams, but right now I don't know. So there's a bit of recognition, recall here, or expectation that might be violated. Let's see what happens when I go add. Okay, you see, I was expecting, or I was suspecting, or looking for, how do I tell them how many grams I want? So recall. And there's a chance that I may actually have abandoned at that point. But I continue. So for me, you would note that I was not sure, but 200, 300 grams, great. Okay, now here's my question is, I don't know that it's actually going to be reflected in my cart because I've already said add to cart. It sounds a bit awkward. The order in which they do it, I'm asking me to do something, seems to be awkward. So there's a lot of things that is happening in my head right now. I'm going, how serious is this? Are they gonna, is this a serious site or not? Why did they not just ask me for how many grams do I want? Assume and show me how many grams, and then I go add to cart on my list. Okay, but now I want to do some validation and go back to my cart and see if it's okay. It's my English, but you see, I did not have um, a visibility of the system. They did not give me feedback that it was actually what I had selected because I already said add to my cart. To me, it was already in the cart. It was gone from that space. And but I was asked to put grams. I wasn't sure if it was actually broken or it would add. So I would have liked to see visibility, a little message that says added to your cart or your cart has been updated. You see how I had to go back to my cart. But I was lacking validation that it was being added to my cart. Okay, not a showstopper, but it seems inefficient. And then this is how. So I was looking for flowers. I found my flowers, and then I would go to my cart and see my items, and then I can see my cart. So I'm reminded that I have two carts. So I have some visibility of the system that says that whatever you've been adding is here, and I can see my avocado. I have flexibility to delete items if I want. I have flexibility to. I don't have flexibility to reduce the number of gram. I can only I cannot reduce, I can only add. So I'm a little bit here. I go, okay, so what happens if I want to go minus? Perhaps there was no 250 is the minimum that I can put. So that's probably, but I'm assuming here, I'm assuming I can empty my cart. So there, it's efficient. And then I have to add more items to be able to continue for my checkout. But why can I not just pay for delivery? And not have a minimum. It sounds like they're forcing me to have a minimum. So you see, there's a lot of things going. But why am I forced for a minimum if I'm willing to pay for delivery fees? So is delivery fee free? Now it's triggering more question. Is delivery free? And that's the other thing. People want to know how much the delivery. They're not telling me what is the delivery. I'm guessing. So the better thing, don't make people guess. Tell them about delivery. So I'm assuming here that it's going to be free. And if I want to know if it's going to be free or not, I'm going to add more items. So I'm going to add, oh, interesting. Why can I not decide on the quantity here again too? But, right, because I'm adding quantity. What am I adding? I'm not 100% sure. There's a bit of inefficiency in here. I'm going to add, oh, okay. I was like, where's my chicken? But it's here. Okay, now I can check out. And I carry on. I was assuming free delivery. 4 per kilogram. Okay, now again, this window. I don't want to sign up. I'm going to close and see if I can continue. Check out now again. Inefficient. There are too many clicks. They're forcing me. I abandoned. I abandoned. I abandoned Metal at this point. And I will tell you, I've seen research, 35% of people abandon when they see that they're being forced, but they're forcing me to sign up. I don't want to sign up. And then obviously, okay, in usability testing, you would want people to go through the sign up process, and you would want to see what happens when they've signed up, post sign up. Let's see that we were in usability testing right now. You would note that I'm pissed and I would leave. But because you want to see what happens post that step, and you want to see what the experience is still for someone who's actually chose to log in with the participant, you would note that the task is probably failed 100% because they would abandon. But you still would want to see how do they manage. If that step did not exist, how would they manage to actually go through that step? So you would probably give them an account. So you would need to create an account, and you would give them the account that you create for the test, for the purpose of the test, so that they can continue, right? But I'm too lazy. I'm not going to create it. But this is how you would do so that you can get what you need, the insights, but you would note that they abandoned. This is really bad. So flexibility, user control, they're forcing me into a path that I'm not, and I will abandon. And that's a lot of business that they actually miss. Okay, so did I manage to actually see the savings and see the flyers? Did I find it? Yes, I did. Was the experience flawless? No, it wasn't. We know that there were some challenges. It was pretty on par, uh, except for some extra clicks. Like when I click flyers, assume maybe that's what I want. Why having to pick between flyers and something else? And then when I get to the flyer look and behave, and I was able to see the items. I was able to make it bigger. I was able to add. I was actually happily surprised. I was able to see the item and be able to add to my cart or add to my list. For me, add to cart or list was not an issue. For some people, it might be. But I did not have a challenge of adding to my cart. And then I saw that there was feedback from the cart. But then I had challenges with grams. The order seemed awkward, but it was not a showstopper. I've managed, but I had to go the extra mile and look in the cart to see if my 200 grams were there. So visibility system, they could have told me that it was added, but they could have actually asked me to choose the number of grams that I wanted before I add to my cart. They reversed the step. They should say, for Brussels, how many grams do you want for your Brussels? That's what you would do before you add to your cart, right? Think of it in the store. You would put all of the Brussels you want. So you are at that point, you're deciding on the quantity, and then you add it to your cart. They've asked me to add it to my basket and then see how many Brussels you want to add to your basket. Afterward, and I can't even see my basket. You see, it's bad. The mental model is broken here. Yes, Shaban. Do you have a question? I saw your hand was raised. Okay, so we've done a few things here. We've looked at heuristic, trying to bring back heuristic evaluation, look at it from a specific user goal, and then do an assessment, share with you some of the heuristic, share what you think aloud, and share with you some insights of if we were in usability testing, what would you do and what would happen? So you've seen several pieces. Are there any questions or comments about what the demo or the experience that we just gone through? And I'm hoping that this is what you did when you actually did heuristic evaluation for the lab this week. We are going to look at the assignment that is due for next week. So how do you get to the assignment? You go to Canvas, Blackboard, sorry. You go to Blackboard, and then the first assignment, it's called assignment number 5. And this is a team assignment. So the same team that you're working with, Divan. So the same team and the same project. And then you've picked a project. So I know some of you picked, Michael picked Nintendo. I don't know what other teams have selected, but I will discover as you do your submission. So in your team, for the product that you will do for this assignment, number 6 and number 7, uh, this assignment is the heuristic evaluation. It is due for Tuesday, September 28th. It is worth 35 points, but it is, I believe, 10%. So it's 10% of your mark, and it has a total of 35 points. And I have shared with you how what the 35 points are consist of in the evaluation criteria. So the goal of this assignment is to review your knowledge. So you're going to apply the 10 heuristic evaluation and extend your understanding of these heuristic into a more meaningful and detailed way. So expertise is developed through the ongoing application of these principles. So I want you to do. So you're going to do what you've done for MedHo, but you're going to do it for your site, for the site of the business that you've selected. And then the ultimate goal of this assignment is to come goals and challenges that you will want to validate via usability testing. So this will inform assignment number 6. So this is going to be, what are we going to be testing for that specific business when we actually go into usability testing? So you are making an assessment of the site and where you believe there are some challenges, and we're going to validate those challenges that you've observed through usability testing. That's the main goal of this heuristic evaluation. So if what I will be interested in knowing, in seeing, is that you've identified goals that are business very impactful. So I want you to think about challenges that are severe enough that the business is probably losing money, or the business is actually wasting money because customer are calling and they have to do a lot of support. So sales are affected, or the call center is affected, the support channels are affected. The agents may get a lot of questions, or people abandoned. So think of pre-purchase and post-purchase as well. Very, very important. So with your team, choose a site. So at this point, I'm hoping you've selected a site. It could be a website, or it could be an app, and it will be harder to do app testing. So app testing is really, really going to be difficult for you to see on the doing screen sharing, because you're going to do your remote testing unless you want to do it in person for your testing. I'm assuming most of your testing will be remote and will done through your desktop, so that you can share. They can share the screen. You can see what they do, and that's really important. If it's mobile, it's a bit trickier to be able to share what they actually see and what they do. Mind you, like I haven't really shared my screen from a mobile, but I believe you can on Zoom. May not be an issue, but I know that most students have done desktop, but you can do still the mobile if you want. So as we've said, we want a site that is transactional in nature. That was part of selecting a brand or a site that is transactional e-commerce, and then we want to look at the review from two set of customers: someone who's new or knows your brand, or has maybe never bought, and someone who's actually has already a product. So the key here is, I want you to think of a customer that doesn't have a product, doesn't have a product for you, or doesn't have anything or any order. And maybe you want to think of a customer that potentially might have an order that may need support and help. So they're not interested, those customers are not interested in buying, but they're interested in maybe contacting you, returning an items, to contact you, or make a change to their order, change the time slot that they pick. So they already have done the transactions. They are post-purchase. So you have to think about someone who's not a customer before they buy, and someone who's actually is a customer, what some of those tasks will be. Then I want you to brainstorm and list 3 or 5 business impactful user goals. So this is like our assignment. Why would someone go to Metro? Then why would someone new who doesn't have a product go to, let's say, Nintendo? Or why would an existing customer who has a Nintendo go to Nintendo? Maybe you're right. Maybe they want to buy another game as well. Or maybe they have a specific question, or they have an issue and they want to get troubleshooting. can you actually even troubleshoot the item online. Then I want you, as I said, make sure that you include items that goals for people that don't have a purchase, people that have a purchase, and then lists. So I want you to think of user goals that are impactful. Then you may want to think of variations. If you remember, one of my user goals for Metro was to look at the next available time. But then I said, what about being a little bit more specific? I know the time and I know the day and the time frame. So try to think of maybe multiple variations of a goal. So that, for example, that I gave you, find the price of a generic brand. So maybe I'm shopping in Metro, but maybe I'm looking for a specific brand. Maybe I want a brand, I just want a price for any brand. Maybe I want to save to my grocery, my item. Maybe I want to find more items to add to my order. Maybe I want to come back later. Maybe I want to place my my delivery on a specific day. And then so think of potential variations of that same goal. The intent of those goals here are all to buy something, but I may not buy today. So think of interruption. Maybe that's the other way to think about it. And then take into account that users are not linear. They will stop, they will come back, and they will have interruption as well. So how is that as your goal? For each user goal and user type, or each user goal or for someone who's new, or each user goal for someone who's actually already has a product, then I want you to think about what do you think some of the steps or the sequence that you think they would follow to accomplish that goal. And don't necessarily think of online specifically, right? Think of the time slot. We've said, okay, so if I want to look for a time slot, first of all, I'm going to look for a place that says, like, I'm going to find a time slot, see the time available, pick the date that I want, and see time available. That's it. You're not saying browse, search, click on. You're not saying in terms of clicking in terms of website. But I want you to think in terms of user step, right? This has helped us to see that asking the user online delivery or priority delivery was maybe an unnecessary step because it's not necessarily what you wanted to do for your next time available. It was not at all in the sequence. So I want you to think of a sense of step and sequence that they would do, that they would go through the site. Outside and not thinking in terms of the site. So I will say the trick is stay away from browsing, searching, adding to cart, adding, like think of, in normal life, what would be some of the decisions that the user will need to go through as they're trying to accomplish that goal, and not necessarily in the context of that specific site. I know that's a bit probably the most difficult aspect that students have in the past. So think about adding items. If I'm just shopping, I want to see what's in special. I just want to see a special, and maybe I want to be able to view and then be able to see and then add an item that I like to my grocery list. So I don't really, you stay away from the site per se, from clicking and browsing. Then so as a team, you have to agree on who you think the users are and the user goals. Then on your own, I want everybody to go and do your own evaluation using the principles. So there's part one, as a team, decide on the company, the site, the user goals, and the priorities. Then you're all going to agree on which user goals are you going to be evaluating using the heuristic evaluation. So you have to then go to your site, and then you each have to do your own evaluation like you did in the lab using the heuristics. So for each user goal, first of all, can you find a goal? And then you do what I did. You do what I did, you list your items, and then at the end, you want to map them to your heuristic. But go through the experience first and make note of anything that you see that you think will be a challenge to the user. At the beginning, you just go through the experience, make notes of where you're having challenges, but where it's okay, carry on. And don't limit yourself, just make notes. And pay attention to the sequence, pay attention to the steps that they're asking you things, and anything that feels awkward, just list it. And then once you've gone through your one scenario, then you may want to start thinking about what are some of the heuristics that maybe were violated. And then perhaps you may think about how did they support visibility in that heuristic for that scenario. Then you may want to say, how did they prevent errors? How did they give help in documentation? If you feel that maybe you're missing on some of the challenges and issues for that user goal. So this is like the assignment, right? And then you're gonna have, hopefully, for your 3 or 4 user goals, you're gonna have a list of all issues, and then you can start maybe assigning. Now you have a heuristic for each one. Maybe you want to start assessing severity. How bad is this? How bad was the experience? Was I blocked actually, or was I even able to accomplish it? Then you can say, okay, this issue is very severe. This issue maybe is low, high, medium. You can say low, high, medium, and that's it. So everybody needs to do their part. Now you come back as a team. And then, but I need to see in a report each of your evaluation, but it's one submission, but I need to see Michael has done this, part 2 Michael, part 2 Shaban, part 2 Ashley, all in one submission. And then with your team then meet, discuss, talk, look at what was in common, what was not in common, and then you're gonna have to agree on how you're gonna communicate all of in one, as if you were doing one report, all issues found, and then what was the principles violated for each of the user goals, and then the severity as well. So you can decide on how you want to group the issues. My recommendation is group the issues per user goal. It gives context, right? So I can see we had 5 user goal. Here's what we found for user goal number 1. Collectively as a team, we found all of these issues. And then the severity of these issues are high, low, and medium for each of the issues. And perhaps you may want to list the severity of the issue in order of severity. You could list user goal finding the flyer. We found the following high severity issues, the medium severity issues, and the low severity issues. That's a way. But you're flexible. Put yourself in the shoes of, I am your client. I know nothing about usability and user experience design. It has to be simple for me to understand, right? That I have a good sense of, is this user experience for that user scenario bad? And if it's bad, what do I need to fix? And then you have to write a summary and a report of what you have found. So I give you some tips of what the report should include in number 5. The name of the site, obviously, all the user goals for new or existing customer. And then perhaps what are some of the steps of the sequence that you think for each of the user goals. And then the issues that you will find. So I talk about strength, but focus on issues. Of course, you would want to focus on strength, not to throw anything away if you were redesigning. And then each issues, what the issues were with the severity of the issues. And it needs to be clear on which user goals and areas of the site or challenge you will want to include in the usability testing. So what I'd like for you to say, these are the user goals and the issues that we believe that we will be including in the usability testing. So, and I'm pretty sure you will find issues for all of the user goals that you will find. And that's the goal, right? Is at the end of this, we want to be able to know which user goals we're going to be testing when we go into testing. And then, as I said, the final report must include part 2 for all team members. You could put them as an appendix. You could actually put all of the team members' part 2 evaluation as an appendix. So you could begin with, here's what we found collectively. We agree that for the user goal buying food, we found these issues. But you could put all of your individual assessment at the end. And think of it as a client. I don't need to know that Shaban found this. I don't need to know Michael found this. Put it into an appendix. I just want to know me very quickly. What are the issues with user goal? Who found it? I don't, it doesn't matter to me as a customer. But if I want to look at it in the appendix, then I will look at it. I want to make sure that all students have done it. This is why I ask. So you will be marked on your ability to have impactful business business goals or user goals, that you have shown that you have thought about the steps or sequence that would be that user will follow. You are organizing the report that I can actually easily understand it. You're actually looking at issues that are severe or medium or low as well. You have used the heuristic principle, and if you see obvious solutions on how to fix issues, you can list it. But I'm not interested in solutions, so don't focus on putting solutions. And then I want you to, and there's a lot more about reporting in the deck that I share with you from last week and this week, which is a copy. Short, succinct, actionable. It's practical, to the point, and you don't have to put solutions. So don't put solutions in. I just want to know what the issues are. But I want the report that I could take on, and I could actually, I would know how good or bad my site is for the user goals. PowerPoint, you can use a Word document or you can use a PowerPoint. I don't really care. Me, I'm interested in the content, in the meat. And I will be evaluating you on that you understood the user goals and STEP. You have identified the issues based on principles. You have appropriate breadth of issues identified. There are enough issues, and the issues are, and there will always issues. The issues are actually not all low issues. Like, I'm expecting that will be some significant issues with all sites that you have. The level of detail provided in identifying the quality of the design, the professionalism and community of concept, and adherence. You've included everything that I want for a total of 35 points. So that's the assignment, and we have passed our time to 50. Are there any questions about the assignments per se? Clear as crystal water? I hope you started working on the assignment. Now, awesome. So if there are any questions between now and Tuesday, please reach out to me. If you need, for some reason, if we think that people are having a challenge and Tuesday is a challenge, I may be open to extend it, but not much, because we really need it to be able to start next week. So next week, we are going to start talking planning or usability testing. So this is why we need to know what are the issues with your site, so that on planning next week, we're going to do planning. So Thursday of next week, we're going to start planning based on that assignment. No, I just need one team member to submit, Tanisha. All of part 1, part 2, part 3 in one document. One team member can submit, and then but make sure that you give me the team name so I can go and add the marks. But if all team members want to submit, it's okay too. So if it's easier for all your teams to submit, it's fine. Either way, for me, if I can save you time, I'm happy. So I just need one submission per team, but make sure that you put the names of the team. So 250, my apology. I will let Yvonne know that we went over by 5 minutes, and then she'll give you another 5 minutes on her window. But she's not going to like me because it's the second time I do it in a row. If there are any questions about assignment between now and then, please reach out to me by email, and I'll be more than happy. And we'll see you tomorrow for card sorting. This week is very practical. It's a practical session. Tomorrow is about card sorting. Very practical too. Enjoy your afternoon, and thank you for coming. Everybody's very keen